Your very presence constitutes a form of resistance and of protest. And that's one of the most remarkable things about your entry into Congress. I mean, it's a transformative moment in American politics, because suddenly the social justice activism and the resistance that you all represent moved from outside the corridors of power to the very center of state power. So if you could talk a little about how you think that movement has altered the resistance and also its effects. I'm afraid I'll begin with you again, Congressmember Omar.
Can we not choose who goes first? I think for many of us, 2016 was going to be an election year where we were going to decide what kind of country we were going to be. It was very clear that on one side there was someone running for president who presented an extreme danger not only to our democracy, but to the very lives of the American people. And, I was running for the first time for state rep in my home state. And I remember on election night, we stayed a little too long after my results came in, and we celebrated to unfortunately learn what the state of our country was going to be. And I remember saying to the young people who are in this room, some of them, that I could not believe that the hateful message he was delivering found partners in the hearts of so many Americans to be able to now become successful in the election. And I know that at that moment, really, for many of us, there was a decision that we had to make, a decision on whether to take and receive everything that was going to happen, or resist, restore, and reimagine what could be possible. And so our presence really and our elections were not only to resist the harmful policies that are coming from this administration and that have now become the norm, but it's to restore hope. It's to restore American values. It's to restore generations of what could have been possible, and to reimagine the America that we all know we deserve. And so I am, quite excited actually about the kind of opportunities we have been presented because of the current challenges we have. As someone who's had a very challenging life, I always find an opportunity in every challenge. And I know that at this moment, we have had an opportunity to see every broken system reveal itself. We have had an opportunity for people to recognize what they are not only losing, but what they could gain. We have had an opportunity to allow for the racists and the bigots to fully tell on themselves. And we have had an opportunity for people who have never really imagined themselves fully powerful in the corridors of power, to recognize that they cannot be muzzled, intimidated, and silenced, that we are not ever going to be dismissed unless we allow ourselves to be dismissed. And I think the shock that our presence really has brought is that for too long, people have gotten used to having mediocre white men show up and think they own the day without anybody ever questioning their credentials, their qualifications, and their vision for a broken America. And for the first time, you have women who should be apologetic, who should feel small, who might visibly be small, who come in and know their place, understand their power, fully execute their vision, and never really look shaken by the insecurities that many who thought they were powerful feel now that their power is challenged. And so for me, I feel like, people are often wondering, like, if you've got all of these challenges, Ilhan, how do you still continue? Or why do you all feel like you thrive in your controversies? And it's because we don't live in controversy. We live in constant struggle for the truth, and we live in constant struggle in remaking America in its image of freedom and liberty for all. Not the image of the past, but the image of what the future of America should look like.
Whoever feels inspired to respond, please do.
I think Ilhan brought up an excellent point, which is the reaction, either way, I think, to each of our respective elections. I don't think it is a coincidence or an accident that we are descendants of untold stories in the United States and in the world.
Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
To be a daughter of a colonized people in Puerto Rico, to be descendants of people who were placed in bondage by the powerful in the United States, to be a Palestinian woman, to be a child who rose from the ravages of war. We tell stories and truths that are uncomfortable. And our very existence is a descendance of discomfort or uncomfortable stories that, or rather, they're uncomfortable to be told today. There is so much effort put in to not tell these stories. And now we've been elected on a mandate to tell this truth. And that creates a reaction. And it is either intensely liberating if this story in any way is part of your story or a story that you want to be told out of allyship, or it is incredibly uncomfortable because perhaps it forces some folks to hold up a mirror they don't want. And I think that is a big part of the energy. But to the question of what's it like to kind of cross that threshold when you're used to being on the outside, having to speak loudly so that anyone will hear your voice, to crossing that threshold into the inside. I think it's a challenging balance, because when you're inside, the word is just always compromise. And you have to decide what is a just compromise and what is compromising your identity, who you are, and the very essence of your being. And that, I think it's not just questions that we have to navigate individually, but questions that we have to navigate as a movement, because we're not used to winning in this way. And now we have a power that is somewhat novel electorally, and we have to learn how to wield that. And that's where accountability from the outside is the most important, because you all help show us the way.
Congressmember Rashida Tlaib.
About all of us is just, we are unapologetically ourselves, and we're just, one of the things that, as growing up in Detroit, which is the most beautiful, blackest city in the country, is we birth movements. And there's this new era of social justice movement about, yeah, we're going to organize in the streets. And let me tell you, I mean, I grew up hearing people like Grace Lee Boggs and everybody that said, don't wait for somebody to introduce things in the halls of Congress or wait till the White House wakes up. We transform our country by movement work outside of the halls of Congress and in the White House. And so believe in that, because that's exactly what we've done. I mean, what's incredible about my sisters up here and all of us is, I mean, we ran not one dime of corporate dollars. Like, we ran with no corporate PAC money. We ran talking about our immigrant stories, our backgrounds, our parents. I mean, every time Ayanna talks about her mother, I tear up. We talk about these forms of oppression that we've all gone through in our lives, in our workplaces and everything. But we ran just as we are, with nobody coming and trying to, like, they tried. And I'm like, no, I don't want your money. No, I'm gonna be just like this. So even not only in the halls of Congress, I'm gonna tell you, even in Detroit politics, they're like, oh my God, Rashida won. Yeah, I'm going to push back against you spending money on a hockey stadium downtown Detroit, while a mile away, not a few blocks away, there's a school with no drinking water, literally shutting down the drinking fountains. So it's also the fact that even on the grassroots level, that transformative change that was happening, organizing in the streets of Detroit, all of a sudden just reached the halls of Congress, right? And so believe in that movement. You are part of this new era that understands it. Yeah, we're always, I hate when they say outside. No, we're an extension. We are such an extension of what you all are doing. Plus, you all give us credibility. When I'm yelling about something, it's like, you're all like, no, that's actually happening to me. What Rashida just said is true. You all just gave corporate tax dollars to a billionaire in downtown Detroit, Dan Gilbert, who's been investigated for mortgage fraud, while you're taking my children away. You're taking my children away because I can't pay for my water because it's unaffordable, because you're saying I'm neglecting. But you'll spend money on a for-profit entity of foster care that is helping the private sector, but you won't help me feed my babies. So I just want you to know, like, every time we hear your stories, every time you're out there pushing back, you all uplift what we're doing inside. We are you. Like, I just hope you believe that. And please, God, because I don't want to spend a long time there. Run. It's true. Run for office. Run for Congress. Run.
Congresswoman Pressley.
All right. Okay, so I just, I've been ruminating a lot on a sermon that a faith leader in my district gave not that long ago. And the sermon talked about moment, movement, and momentum. And I just want to say, it's like very tempting to think that in our righteousness, that we are in a moment that is ushering in a new movement. Now, I don't know how long it takes a pebble to travel from the diaspora, the African diaspora, all the way to Chicago, and then to Boston, and then to DC. That's my life journey. But I'm just telling you that we're actually in the momentum. And what I mean by that is, in the way that we are intentional about bringing our ancestors into spaces, I have got to bring people like Barbara Lee and Maxine Waters. This did not yes, there is a paradigm shift occurring, but there have been women before us, women of color before us, black women before us, who shook the table, who called the question, who sought justice, who were the truth tellers, who preserved our democracy, and we are simply honoring and trying to be good stewards of the ground that they laid. And then finally, I would say, we are often characterized as being disruptive. Now, if we were in Silicon Valley, we would be called innovators. So, yes, we are disruptors, we are innovators, and contrary to the opinion of many, we are actually patriots. Because dissent is the ultimate patriotism.